when you're young, your net worth is oftentimes negative, right? Like we're paying off debt or we're, just trying to find our way. And as you get older, what diminishes is your human capital, and that's your ability to earn. And so when you're young, you are full of energy, you're full of this ability to make money, and eventually that goes away. And a lot of times you don't control when that happens.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Smart Pro Radio, where we love people and like finance. I'm really excited about our conversation today because we're joined by Smart Pro advisor Karissa Campbell. I want to read a couple things about you real quick so our audience knows.
Sure.
You have a team that is managing right now over $100 million of assets here at Smart Pro. You're a CFP and you're also a Ramsey Smart Vestor. So you have a lot going on, a lot of wisdom to bring. And the reason I'm excited not only to have you here because of your experience that you've had in the industry and how much you've grown in relatively a quick amount of time, around 6 years from starting your career to where you're at right now. But we're going to talk about a few questions that we've not brought up on this podcast before. And so I want to get into the first one. The average age right now in the industry of an advisor. This is a big topic because our industry is not growing. It's really not. It's kind of growing through mergers and acquisitions. There's not a lot of new people being brought into the financial world when it comes to what we do. We're sitting with people at the kitchen table talking about their finances.
Yes.
So the average age right now in the United States, 60 years old. You and I are sitting here in our 30s.
We're young.
We're young in the financial world. And so my question for you is, being someone that's newer to the industry, relatively speaking, even though it's been 6+ years, what advantages do you think that you get? What are the benefits that maybe clients are getting from working with somebody who's younger in the industry?
There's a lot to unpack here for sure. I know there have been a lot of shifts in the industry, like you're talking about, Rick. And I think that we're here to solve for future and not just the immediate needs that clients have. And this includes a lot of changes and ongoing industry initiatives. So we've got tax law changes, we've got new retirement, Secure 2.0. All of these things are constantly evolving. And I think it really takes a fresh perspective when you're working with a younger, I love that we get to be called young in our business, to work with a younger advisor. And then also there's a strong sense of relatability and practicality to working with someone in, our age range. Sure. And the reason for that is we're really in tune with a lot of different generations. We're kind of sandwiched, if you think of it that way, between like Gen Z and then Gen X and baby boomers, silent Gen. And in addition to that, everybody, each generation or each perspective is going to have its own strengths. And I would say having that acuity and having that acumen with technology and embracing technology is really key and pivotal, being a younger advisor. And the other aspect is constantly evolving and educating ourselves because you can't stay stagnant in this industry. And that's why I've prioritized education. And it wasn't that long ago that I was paying off my student debt. So I get it. I get what other people are going through. We see a lot of shifts in family dynamics. We have a lot of modern family dynamics that are definitely more relevant in today's world. And myself understanding what it's like to plan for caring for a parent or, work towards retirement, be on your own with retirement planning too. This is a relatively new thing that we're not carried by pensions anymore.
That's
We
right.
have to do a lot of our own planning, and that's a huge shift. And this is something that I definitely have my finger on the pulse of.
So you mentioned a generational thing, and I think you and I are both right in the middle of that millennial generation,
Yes.
right? Like if you had to put a name on it, that's where we sit. Did you have any financial, I would say, event or thing that happened that you look back on, and maybe not personal, just in general? Like everyone's got their something in each generation that marks them. I think about my grandparents, my great grandparents, where it was the Great Depression. And you look at things that they did in life and you're going, oh my goodness, that's an effect of what you lived through and what you saw. Do you feel like there's anything with our generation that you go, oh, that event shaped how I view money or planning or career?
There are a lot of events that come to mind, but I would say top of mind is technology. And we've taken a front seat to the evolution of smartphones and AI and like unlimited resources out there.
Yeah.
And that can actually be detrimental in a
Oh, I
way.
agree.
And we've talked about this a lot at Smart Pro, how there's just a lot of information, a lot of really bad information
Lots of
out
bad
there, like
information.
TikTok advisors and people who have an opinion of this and that, and these get rich quick schemes. And these are all things that in our industry we see through, and we're like, oh gosh, this is the information that's out there. The other part I would say that's generational is I think that there's a certain open mindedness to understanding emotional balance and like emotional intelligence. And I
Yeah.
think, previous generations have been a little more closed off to that.
Sure.
And we see this even with the newer generations. They're definitely more about work-life balance than you could see in like baby boomers or Gen X. So it's a really interesting lens to
Yeah.
see things through.
The technology question that you brought up, and the advantages and the disadvantages, I think, are on display all the time. We're in the age of a whole new technology boom right now with artificial intelligence. But I think back of just information. Like, information is everywhere.
Sure.
And I think about around a year ago, kind of this time, where the thing that was in the news was tariffs. It was everywhere, and people were like, what is that? What does that mean? Why are we doing it? What's the advantage? What's the disadvantage? I don't really understand a whole lot. And I remember distinctly, because I had made screenshots on my phone of it, just so I captured it in time. And I remember distinctly, we actually recorded an episode with a gentleman who wrote the actual trade policy for the U.S. government. Like, was part of that process, knew this stuff inside and out. And
wow.
Yes, and I look at the amount of listeners and views that had, which was real information. It was timely, it was accurate, and it came from a vantage point of, hey, I have actual information to share that's valuable. And at that same moment, I remember looking and taking screenshots of videos of influencers, I guess you would call it,
Sure.
on YouTube or different places, and they would have 1 million, 2 million views in a few days. And all of it would be fear-based. It would be the end is near. Tariffs are going to destroy everything. Life as you know it is over. And it would have somebody's, somebody that you maybe know in finance, it'd be a picture of their face and this doom kind of doomerism titles and
Yes.
thought to it. And you go, oh my goodness. And that's so much of the information that people consume and get. And it's that technology side. I think it's a beautiful thing when it works correctly.
Blessing and a curse.
But you have to know how to live in it and then maneuver within it of what's real and what's not. So I think that point is a strong one.
Yeah, how to harness that. It's a superpower if you think of it, and it could be used for evil as well as for good. I think another component of our generation or younger advisors is that we're really good at coaching, and we have to be good at coaching because, like you said, there's all this messaging out there that is going to derail a plan or just get people off track or off focus.
Yep.
And part of this, I don't know if we want to call ourselves like next gen advisors, but part of that whole next gen advisor is understanding how to pivot. And then also there's a generational wealth component, and a lot of our clients are either in their earning years or going into retirement, and we're going to be here for all of that. We're going to be witness to, we're going to be partnered to all of these life changes and evolution, and actually get them through to and through retirement.
That's
I like
right.
to say.
No, that's really an interesting perspective, because you look at, averages can be misleading, because there's obviously, very young advisors. There's people that just go, I'm never going to retire. And I know advisors that are in their 80s and mid 80s that are still in business, right? And the interesting thing when you look at that is at Smart Pro, the average age of an advisor is around 40, industry average in the 60s. And you think, man, how many people are going to be retiring as an advisor? Well, their clients are also retiring. And the last thing you want as a client is to go, oh my goodness, I have made it to this point. Now I'm in an area where I have no margin really for error, right? The plan we're right there.
Yep.
And the person that's guiding me has left. And that's something I don't think people think enough about of what's the longevity of the person I'm working with? Like, how long are they going to be in this business? So I'm not going, man, what do I do now when I'm retired?
Exactly. And if we're following our own advice, ideally we're retiring. And that's a really good point you bring up, because we see just statistically, there's a lot of cognitive decline as
Yeah.
we age. It's inevitable. We do everything we can to stay healthy and keep our mind sharp. But you don't want to have to go through the rigmarole of trying to find a new advisor
Yeah.
and try to find that trusted partner when you're in your 70s or 80s or in those later years of retirement. We also, the industry retirement statistics are pretty jarring. I think it's around 40 to 50% of current financial advisors are retiring in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
I know there's different iterations of that statistic, but I think it's actually a little bit of a panic button moment for our industry.
I think so.
What are we going to do to replace, that talent?
I have not attended a conference that it's not been brought up.
Sure.
Of, hey, who are you bringing in? Who are you training? Who are you bringing into the industry? Because there is a problem where companies themselves do not know, how do I train somebody? How do I show them in 6 years go from I'm learning something new to I'm managing $100 million in assets and have the skill set in that short period of a time? Like, most firms do not know how to do that.
Right.
And they're looking now going, oh my goodness, that panic button has been pressed, and it's across the industry.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned something earlier. You talked about planning, and you've really prioritized that in your business. So you're a CFP. Can you explain what that actually means?
A CFP is a certified financial planner, and I consider this to be the gold standard in the financial planning industry. And the reason for that is there are a few obstacles you have to get through to achieve this designation, but it is a designation that shows that you have really put in a lot of time and effort and education to understanding the nuances of financial planning. And there are pillars of financial planning, and it really trains you to look at the whole big picture.
Yeah.
And you have to have a bachelor's degree, you have to have at least 3 years of practical industry experience, and then of course have to go through, college level coursework. And then I went on to get my master's degree beyond that, just because I was already more than halfway there just from getting the CFP credential.
Okay.
So
the question I would say, and this might sound like one that you're like, well, yeah, but not every advisor does, and most people as clients maybe not even had this experience, but why does having a financial plan matter?
Having a financial plan is instrumental to success. You could say this about pretty much anything in life. So finance is not different. We really want to make sure that we have clarity in where we're going. And then prioritizing planning also helps us behave well when things get chaotic. And that's key too, because that can derail, anything that you have going on in your life is you have major life events, and we're all going to bear witness to major life events. Yeah. Let's face it. Nobody gets out of life without having, death or divorce or illness, all of those things. So this creates a baseline that you can return to when the boat gets rocked, essentially.
No, that's interesting, because that really leans into behavioral finance, which is something we talk about a lot, right? Like, we think about, and one thing that Ramsey and his team say quite often, right? Because you're also a Ramsey SmartVestor Pro, right. So you know this language is that it's 80% behavioral, 20% head knowledge. And I think a lot of people think that the role of an advisor is nothing more than rates of return, spreadsheet, money here, and the actual work that really matters. Like, that's important, but the work that really matters is what you just said. What's your plan, and how does that keep you knitted together so that when adversity and things happen, the news cycle, like whatever is going to derail that, going back to our conversation a minute ago about tariffs last year, like, how many people are going, oh my goodness, I have to make some sort of jarring change in my investment plan. But if you don't. Yeah, right. But if you have a plan and you follow it, no, these things are going to happen. This has always happened historically, whether it's tariffs or whatever the thing may be, there's always been something. And there always will be more things that pop up and happen. But the plan is what keeps you together,
Right.
right?
It's your glue.
It is. And so I think that for most people, when they think about working with an advisor, they have to go, okay, what's the plan we're going to build? What's the plan we're going to build? I think about personal finance. And when someone's trying to get out of debt, they're trying to make moves on their personal finance. The first thing that most people need to start doing is, okay, what's your budget? Where's your money actually going? Like, what are you doing to change that behavior in your finances so you can make headway somewhere? It's the same thing with long-term investing. And most people go, no, I just have my 401k, add money here and there. I don't really look at it, I don't think about it. But what's the plan behind why you're adding money? Are you adding enough? Are you doing the right things? Is there more that you need to do? Are you thinking about all the other aspects of finances? And so most people don't. So my question for you would be, what are some things that you prioritize when you sit down with a client and you're going, okay, I understand what you may think I do,
Right.
but here's what I actually do, and here's the value that you're going to get from that.
Along those lines, a lot of people are unconscious when it comes to planning. And I like to use that term unconscious because it really paints the picture of completely not engaged. A lot of people tend to have money avoidance. And so what we're doing when we're even sitting down for financial planning is we are taking the step in the direction to figure out, like you said, where we're going, but also having that honesty with yourself about why we're doing this. And then a lot of people say, I'm behind, or, I should have started a long time ago. And you're not behind, you're just at a different starting point. That's how I like to reframe it, is we're now starting, we need to get organized. And it's usually the first thing. And it can start with, I know as a SmartVestor Pro, we work with baby steps, and they're phenomenal because it really guides people. I like to think of even micro baby steps and just getting some little task done.
Yeah.
A lot of times we feel overwhelmed. So sitting down with a financial planner is really like sitting down with a coach. We're not going to go run a marathon. We're going to basically start with, let's gather some documents.
Yeah.
Let's just gather what we're working with, see what our baseline is. You would be astounded how many people have money out there that they don't even know they have.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure you encounter that all the time. I actually recently was working with a client who found, another $70,000. And it was great. And they were thrilled, of course. But just finding that organization and making sure that we're living in the moment, yes. And we want to be intentional with the way we live our lives, but we also want to be intentional for the future. And our society is constantly perpetuating the idea of more and more experiences and more consumerism. Yeah. And this is detrimental because we need to consider what the future is going to sneak up on us eventually.
Yeah.
So you want to sneak up on your future, and you can do that by planning. And we're not trying to postpone all of the things that we value now. We just want to make sure that we understand that we're going to get old eventually. I like to frame things along the lines of human capital. And when you're young, your net worth is oftentimes negative, right? Like, we're paying off debt, or we're, just trying to find our way. And as you get older, what diminishes is your human capital, and that's your ability to earn. And so when you're young, you are full of energy, you're full of this ability to make money, and eventually that goes away. And a lot of times you don't control when that happens. And I think people think, oh, I'll just work longer, I'll work more, or, I'll just, I'm not going to retire at 65, I'm going to retire at 70. A lot of times you're not making those decisions.
That's right.
Your body is, or your family is.
No, I think that's a really important point. Let me ask you a question on that. If somebody's listening and they hear you say that and they're going, well, I'm living in the moment right now, I'm going to enjoy life. Like, how do you reframe it to where you go, that's not what you just explained isn't a scarcity mindset of like, oh my goodness, you can't spend any money, you can't do anything right now because at some point your ability to earn income is going to stop. And you don't, like you mentioned, sometimes you don't get to determine when that is. Right. It could be a health issue. It could be something out of your control, and you don't know when that is. Sometimes it doesn't align with your perfect, idea of, hey, at 67, at 62, at 60, whatever it may be, I'm going to stop working at that point, and somebody's in their 40s thinking that, or 30s thinking that, or 20s. How do you reframe it to go having the plan and making sure that you're thoughtful about that isn't the same as being scared, going, oh my goodness, I have to hold on to everything so tight. I can't have an open hand when it comes to money, a loose grip on it. It has to be something that I every penny I'm pulling in, and I have to have this scarcity mindset. How do you reframe that if somebody heard that?
That's a good point, because we don't want to be in this industry where if you buy the latte, that's going to derail your plan. That's not the case. We want to look at it as you have to have buy-in. You have to have buy-in in order to understand why you're doing what you're doing. And if that is motivated by generosity, or if that's motivated by financial peace, or just having that feeling of I've got my finances in order. It's not just about saving money. It's also about making sure that we have the right insurances in place, making sure that we have the right estate plan. There are a lot of elements that people want to think of as we need to pinch pennies, and we need to make you feel bad that you're not doing the right things. I had a meeting a couple weeks ago, and it was just the clients were very grateful that we brought up budgeting, and it was just something that they were struggling with, and they didn't understand why. And so for me to just have that conversation with them as like a neutral third party and be like, hey, like, what's going on here? And it was a bit of a wake up call, because they realized that, they had extra money in their cash flow, and they just needed somebody to come in and point it out and have that conversation. So there's a lot of ways that we can inspire hope, and sometimes that's just bringing to the table some ideas and having the conversation and facing it and having that buy-in, having that visualization of what financial freedom looks like for you. It's very difficult for young people especially to visualize themselves in the future and understand like, I'm going to be 60 or 70 years old, God willing, someday, right? And that is challenging to find that why of what we're doing in a financial plan or what we're doing in a retirement plan. And I think having really specific, colorful goals is a really good way to motivate.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think if you think about, when somebody reaches out and they say, okay, I need help. I need help with my finances. There's usually a pain point or something that's happening that's making that occur. And one of the things that's really important to do is to paint what is the desired future that you want. And I like that terminology, because I think a lot of people do struggle going, oh my goodness, I can think of myself right now. I can think of the problems that I have right now. I can think of the life around me. But what is that going to look like in 20 years and 30 years? And the human brain's it's really hard to do that. It's very difficult. It almost looks at somebody in the future and says, oh, that's future me, right? And that's a different thing entirely. And so planning for 30 years in the future becomes incredibly difficult. We know in finance, just, oh my goodness, the sooner you start, how much more benefit you can have long term. You go back to some of those studies of somebody that adds money to a Roth IRA from 18 to 27, look at the amount of money you have versus somebody starting at 27 or 30, and how much more work they have to do, how much more money you have to put in to have the same outcomes, potentially over time. And it's amazing to think, oh my goodness, if you can get a plan early, and it's really never too early to start that process, the benefits you can have long-term are amazing.
Absolutely tremendous. We all wish we had started sooner.
Yes.
Myself included, right? I mean, I'm no stranger to that. I think one of my favorite quotes or motivating quotes about financial planning is by Morgan Housel, and it's that the highest dividend money pays is the ability to control your time. To me, that was inspirational, because what else is there besides time?
That's right.
And that time can be spent well. It could be spent with your family. It could be spent on your health and exercising and pursuing hobbies. And that's the other component of financial planning. There's a softer side of it, because we get to the stage of retirement and it's actually not really talked about that much, but there is a certain level of how are you going to handle your retirement in a purpose way? In a purposeful way, how are you going to spend your time? Because you go from your identity being wrapped up in, being a doctor or being, a financial planner. And what do you do at that stage when that network goes away? And those are some of the softer retirement skills that I like to cultivate or work with clients on, and ask those deeper questions. Where are we volunteering? How are we going to spend our week in retirement?
Yeah.
And and how are we going to force you to spend money? Some people really struggle
That's right.
to spend money because they have the mind shift. They have to have the mind shift of going from accrual to spending. And that can be a really hard mind shift as well.
So you mentioned something a few moments ago that I know that somebody listening is going to go, what? How does somebody lose $70,000? How? Like, where does that, like, if somebody right now is going, oh my goodness, I hope I'm not that person. Or maybe they're going, I hope I am that person.
Right.
Find extra money somewhere I didn't know about.
Love that, right?
But where do you see that occurring?
I see that occurring more often than you would think. And we have, if you think about how much, I want to say it's billions of trillions of dollars of qualified like 401k, 403b money that is abandoned or orphaned, and it goes to the government basically if you don't claim it. And I would say that I find that, and it's a beautiful thing to find that, because you say this is the value of working on a plan, is that we're getting organized.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised how, and it's not even that people are really brilliant, they're really intelligent, and they're really good at what they do. They just may not have the time or capacity. Life goes by so fast. And you have family obligations and work obligations and, all the crises that come with all of that. And to engage with money can be an obstacle in itself.
Sure.
If you ask people how much money is in your bank account right now, I would say probably at least 2/3 wouldn't know the answer to that.
Hey, if you've been listening for a while, you know that we care about doing things the right way and helping people make choices that truly matter. But here's the thing, you don't have to do it alone. At Smart Pro Financial, we build a custom step-by-step plan that has the potential to help you today, but also guides you into the future you're hoping for. We use Ramsey-inspired investment models, so your money's invested the same way the Ramsey team talks about. And get this, there's no account minimums, because we believe that everyone deserves trustworthy financial advice no matter where they're starting. If you're ready to get started, then click the link below to meet with a Smart Pro financial professional today.
You see it a lot of times. People have old 401ks, like you mentioned, from, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I never did anything with that from, 3 jobs ago. Or I opened that Roth IRA and put, $5,000 in it once and forgot about it, right? And it's been sitting out there for 10 years.
Sometimes that's a good thing.
It can be a really great thing, but at the same time you go, man, you don't want to be the person that's so disorganized, you don't even know where your own money is. And the last thing you want to do, we give enough money to the government, you want to give more to them. Like, come on now.
Into that.
So you've probably mentioned a few of these things in our conversation, but what are 3 ways that financial plans really can impact a client positively?
Sure. I love naming 3 things, because that's all we can remember. 3 things. So 3 things or 3 ways that a financial plan can add value. Number 1 is your money can be aligned with your values. And that goes back to everything we've already said, in the sense that we want our money to have purpose and have a job, and we want to make sure our values are in alignment with that. That makes it easier to stick to a plan. And then the plan itself informs those values. So it goes back and forth. It's a circle. I like to think of money as funded contentment. And what brings you contentment could be a myriad of things. And that's where that plan comes into place of why are we doing this?
Sure.
The second value add would be just that in decision-making improvement, having that baseline and that framework. If we see this in sports, you train, you work really hard, and you're out there on the field and something goes wrong, something you didn't plan for, or something, your opponent does something, or your does something you didn't anticipate or you didn't foresee. you have that framework of that muscle memory that you fall back on. And that's really what a plan does. So when the market shakes you up, or tariffs or news headlines, or new financial investing products that aren't investments at all, these types of things.
That happens.
Yeah, exactly. All the time. So that actually helps us come back to the framework and keeps us stable and keeps us on track. And then the last that I would consider the most important value add to having a financial plan is peace of mind.
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a rosy introductory conversation, but it does mean that you have that honesty with yourself of what your starting point is. And then so many times I meet with clients and they, at the end of the meeting, say, oh, I feel so much better now.
Yeah.
And you can actually physically see the weight of their shoulders fall down.
That's right.
And see that release of knowing, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm not that bad off, or I've taken the step in the right direction to have a plan and have that clarity.
Yes.
So
I'm going to read out a few statistics for you, because I think it's important for people to have an understanding here. So you're a CFP. 23% or 24% now of people that have the CFP are female advisors. People that have the Series 65, which is the license that people use the word fiduciary for, to say I'm a financial advisor, a financial planner. Generally, that's the license they're going to have. There's other ways to get it, but that's one of the main ones. 37% are female. But according to our friend over at Grok, so some AI information from various websites that they pulled this from, 70% of women are considered the financial planner or the person that deals with money in the household. 53% would say that they are the household CFOs. And so the decision makers and the majority of people that are saying, hey, I'm the household CFO when it comes to money, whether that's where money's going, bills, investments, this is where the decision making is happening. What's the disconnect between the numbers here? Because the amount of people that say the financial decision makers in the household are female, but when it comes to financial advisors, when it comes to CFPs, financial planning, the numbers are far less, 24% and 37%.
Right.
So number one is, why do you think that is? And then number two, what advantages do you have in that space?
This is a great one. There's a lot to unpack here. I think that when it comes to women in financial planning, it's difficult to visualize this as a career when you don't see a lot of references, even in pop culture, to women in finance, or even just well-known, renowned leaders in finance. It's almost like you have to see it to envision it. You have to see it first. And I heard this term, and it's kind of interesting. It's called the feminine famine in finance, which I thought that's a lot of alliteration, right? But it makes sense because I see this even as a female, financial professional going to broker-dealer conferences, or just being in the industry. You look around the room and it's true, those statistics ring true when I look around the room and I don't see enough women with a seat at the table. And this is something that we see as another panic button in our industry, because there are a lot of people that are going to be inheriting, a lot of women in particular are going to be inheriting lots of wealth, lots of generational wealth. I think the latest statistic is 30 trillion is going to be passing to the hands of women in the next 10 years. And the beautiful thing about the way that women handle money, I've seen, or even just studies have shown that the world does flourish when more money goes into the hands of women, because they do tend to prioritize family and security and philanthropy. I think that you see a lot of leadership in boards for non-for-profits, and there's just a lot of, in education, you see a lot of women. Those are kind of the careers that attract women. So it's interesting because women are really well versed and really built for financial planning, But I think the issue with attracting women to financial planning as a career is that it's skewed as very number crunching and very like lack of career, like life work balance and good old boy club. Like we see a lot of those stereotypes, and that is not the case. And hear me now say that, like, you can create this career the way you want it to be.
Yeah.
And you can absolutely have work-life balance. And I think that women tend to be more risk averse. And that is one reason why they may not be attracted to this business. But I think really just having more talking heads that are representative of being an empowered female. And finance doesn't have to look like, you know, a black and white, like suit and tie situation.
Yeah.
And that's not how I wear dresses every day. Like I like to continue to be very feminine and be in this industry. And women are great educators. We're very compassionate, great listeners, and, you know, not to overgeneralize, but actually, you look at studies, women make great long-term investors because we stick to a plan. We're very goals driven, and not having an overconfidence bias or having a lot of ego drive. And in fact, maybe to the detriment of maybe being a little less confident, can actually help a portfolio, management.
Explain that last. How does it help portfolio management?
Because statistically, men tend to potentially overtrade.
Okay.
And that actually can hinder performance because it's that overconfidence of I am in control and I know better than the market. And the market can be very humbling, as we all know.
No, that's an interesting point. I think back to, you know, clients that I have and interact with, and that dynamic, as you say that, I'm thinking of multiple examples of people like that and going, oh yeah, you're right. And long-term investing, we know typically that's going to be the best way to actually, you know, build wealth is to long-term stick with the plan, add money consistently over time. Don't look for what's the next thing, right? What's the next interesting product, as you mentioned, which sometimes aren't even
shiny
investments.
object.
That's right. And trading, trying to get information, and that information then allows you to think, okay, I'm going to have that ability to be smarter than the market or smarter than the people around me, and tends to add more risk to portfolios.
It does.
And take more risks, which don't always work.
I'm telling you, we are built, and I'm not saying that this is not a trait that, you know, men can have, but women are built, like a lot of the traits that women have are built for investing and for this industry. And I actually have an interesting story to share. I have a client who is she's not retired, but she was in accounting. Okay. That was her career. She was well renowned in her industry. She was incredibly successful, very left-brained, so very numbers oriented. She would go meet with her financial planner or her financial advisor, and he was a male, and she would go with her husband. And the conversation was constantly directed at the husband. And they would finish up the meeting. She would take notes, completely understand everything that happened during the meeting. They'd get in the car, and then her husband would turn to her and go, "What the heck was he talking about? Can you please tell me what was going on? Can you give me the skinny on what that, you know?" And it was a pride and like ego thing. But what do you think the first thing she did when she unfortunately lost her husband was she was in the market for a new financial advisor? Because she actually that was what she did for a living. She was a very numbers oriented business and incredibly astute, really smart woman. And the conversation, I feel like she even said he wouldn't even make eye contact with her.
Oh, wow.
And I know that's an extreme example, but you have to keep in mind that the other component to this is that women do live longer than men. And so there is going to be a point at everyone's life where they need to have a baseline of understanding of financial literacy and involvement and understanding, and just make sure that they're not leaving that completely in the dark.
That's really interesting point. I think about another statistic that comes to mind from that is generally when a spouse passes away, which almost always tends to be the male first.
Sure.
About 70% of the time, they don't stay with the same advisor that they had
Exactly.
when they were a couple. They go and look for something new. And I wonder if it has to do with the fact that the majority of advisors are men. The relationship was with, the husband, or that's where they directed the conversation. They isolated and didn't have this as a joint team effort.
Right.
And they feel like, okay, I have to go find somebody now that's going to be on my team.
Right.
That's interesting.
And it's so important, and this goes both ways. Whenever I feel like husband or wife, spouse, doesn't matter gender, what matters is having engagement and having buy-in and having even asking questions. So if I find that someone is a bit quieter in a meeting, maybe I'll try to direct some more questions to them, not to make them uncomfortable, put them on the spot, but just so that they have a voice in it. And like I said, it could go either way. Your statistics about the CFO of the household, it's not surprising to me. We see a lot of women that are in the throes of handling the budget and like the daily expenses and paying for, school activities and things like that. So
that's true.
It makes sense. Everybody has to be engaged in some capacity. So
no, that's great. So you also mentioned about the panic button in the industry of people, specifically female advisors. You're different in that, where you're actually creating not only for yourself as someone who's in the business and has clients and is building a great book of business, talking to so many people and doing things in a way that's really impactful, but you're also training new people to do this. Like you're coaching people, you're finding people that at the heart of a teacher and showing them how to be advisors like you are right now. And I think of the group of people you have, and it's a lot of it is coming from that same knitting that you're talking about, right? So you're even in a position right now that if somebody out there is listening going, oh my goodness, you know what? I'm a female, I want to do something different. You're in a position where you can actually train them and show them how you're doing what you're doing.
I would love to. I would love to train more, more young professionals, and this is so important, and that's a bit of our battle cry here at Smart Pro, is to bring in not necessarily people that are really seasoned in finance. More, we can show you the ropes. We have a lot of opportunity where you can start really from even understanding the paperwork process and then building your way up to understanding. And hey, our doors are always open. And I even remember when I first started, I used to bug you all the time. I'd be knocking on your door asking questions. And I think that's the key, is to have an environment where you feel like you can ask questions.
Sure.
And you don't have to feel like you're afraid to reach out for help and to reach out for a mentor or somebody who's going to take you under their wing. And we have a lot of that. And myself, thank you for bringing that up, because it is incredibly important and something that I am working on, building out more of a team, and then keeping that longevity in the business. And having that succession is important too, because we don't want to be in a situation where, you have a life crisis event. You want to have continuity in your team.
That's right.
And so it's beneficial to clients as well to have that continuity.
Yeah, I love that. So we talk about hope a lot. It's, going back to like our mission is we feel like people right now lack hope when it comes to money, lack hope when it comes to a lot of things, but specifically money ties into so much when it comes to words that you hear of someone saying, I'll always live paycheck to paycheck. I'll never be able to retire. I'll never have enough. I'll never be able to buy a home. We see these things kind of mounting right now. We see the latest statistic is 40 years old for the first time home buyer in the United States, highest it's ever been.
Yeah.
Consumer debt, incredibly high, some of the highest numbers ever. Student loan debt. And so people are really struggling out there when it comes to hope for any of this, going, oh my goodness, I don't know how I'll ever be able to have the quality of life that maybe I've seen from my parents or my grandparents. What's the point of all this? So my final question to you as we're wrapping this conversation up is, for someone who doesn't have a plan yet, but they want to get started, what hope or encouragement would you give them?
I've mentioned a couple of these points in our conversation already, but let's use HOPE as an acronym. And this is simple to remember. HOPE, H, honesty. Honesty is finding out where you are and facing that reality. And it could be a good thing, could be a little bit more of an obstacle to overcome, but that honesty of recognizing your baseline. O is opportunity. We have opportunity to figure out where you can go. And I can't tell you where you need to go or where you can go. You have to tell me what you want to do. Mm-hmm. And that's where we build out P, the plan, which is planning, and then bridging that gap. When we know and we're honest with where we're starting, we figure out what the opportunity set is, and then we have the plan that bridges the gap. Mm-hmm. The E in hope is empowerment. And that can be confidence and understanding your plan and empowerment in financial literacy and having clarity. And I think that's a key to have and move forward with clarity. And a lot of times I like to break it down even further from baby steps to micro steps and finding those little items that we can check off the list that get momentum, because we get stuck in analysis paralysis. And I think myself included, when I first started investing, I was always aware of needing to save, and I did save, but I didn't know I was supposed to be investing. Yeah. So I was really smart with budgeting and those, but I didn't connect the dots until I started working with a financial professional, and actually your dad. And so I ended up reaching out and realizing that I had to start investing, and that was the bridging the gap part that I didn't know. Okay. So there is no such thing as hopeless, because let's put it this way, any investing is better than none.
That's right.
And a lot of times we start off really small. So if it's $50 a month, and then that gets a little easier, what we want is we want to be in a situation where everything turns into a little bit of autopilot, but it takes time to get there. And autopilot is just saving your 15% towards retirement. And you don't have to, it's not that you can't start if you can't start right there. Mm-hmm. You can start from any point, even if it's $50 a month, or even if it's just paying off debt. Paying off debt is actually almost more fun than investing, because it's instant gratification. That's right. It's slow, but it's your net worth immediately goes up, because you're able to take that cash flow and turn that into investing. Mm-hmm. And I like to use those benchmarks for my clients to say, hey, this is where you started. This was your net worth. Each year, we're getting better and better. And it's kind of like working with a personal trainer where they're showing you the movements. You're doing the movements. I'm just here, cheerleading and giving you insight and having those meetings, but you're doing all the heavy lifting.
That's right.
And we can start from anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to be the hero of your story.
Exactly.
So hope, you had honesty, right? Find out where you're at.
Yep.
Opportunity.
Yep.
Okay. What's out there? What can we do and accomplish? Mm-hmm. Right? You had planning, right? Have a plan. Mm-hmm. And empowerment?
Empowerment.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I love that. That's awesome. So I know you're still in a position in your business where you're able to help people really no matter where they're at. Mm-hmm. Okay. It doesn't have to be somebody that's comes through as a smart vestor and knows Ramsey. Like, you'll work with people no matter where they're at, whether they're a Ramsey fan in FPU, whether there's somebody that's never heard of that and going, okay, what do I do to get started? And you have an opportunity right now to really help people all over the country. So how do people find you? How do they access you? How can they get an appointment with you?
Yes, call me, text me. My phone number is 941-289-3289. And we'll also have a meeting link.
Yeah, well, when the show notes, we'll have the meeting link. Yeah.
You can self-schedule, and typically we start off with a quick phone call just to learn a little bit more about your situation. And then from there, come up with a plan, come up with the next steps. But really it just starts with picking up the phone or even setting that appointment.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Y'all take the bold step, reach out, do something great for yourself, have some hope when it comes to your financial life, get a plan, and work with somebody that you can trust. It will make a huge difference in your finances. Karissa Campbell, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me on the show. Thank you.
Hey, thank you all so much for tuning in to today's episode of Smart Pro Radio. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please take a minute and subscribe and share this episode with friends. We really do appreciate it. And make sure that you don't miss any future episodes. We put them out on the first Monday of each month. We'll see you then.
Discussions in this show are for entertainment and educational purposes only and should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions. Securities offered through registered representatives of Cambridge Investment Research Incorporated, a broker-dealer, member FINRA, SIPC. Advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors Incorporated, a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and SmartPro Financial are not affiliated.